I'm Rob Carpenter. I've been a patient of OSC since 2014. Um, Started off with Dr. McFarland, moved on to Dr. Carlson, needed a surgery following a truck accident, and basically I had kind of lost most of my function. So it got to the point where I was at Kroger one day and my son had to drive me home, who's at the time was 13 years old. So he had to drive me home and get me to my car and all that stuff. So it was to the point where you couldn't walk. A lot of your function was gone. I met with his scheduler, the Carlson scheduler first, and she walked me through a lot. She gave me the ice packs and told me everything I would need, set me up for the fitting for the back brace, told me how I would use it, and moved on from there into the day of surgery. Met there, talked to Carlson. He kind of walked me through everything. And then when I got up, he explained everything. Hey, you're going to go home in a couple hours, and this is what I want you to do. You walk, you try to stay as active as you can. And we talked pretty routinely. And if we didn't talk, we were back and forth through the patient portal on messages. And it's not just him; it's his team or his physician assistant. So you got a whole group of people that you're communicating with that kind of lead you through beginning to end. Probably the most stunning thing to me was that there wasn't a big push like you should have surgery, but let's try other things first before we really get truly invasive. So there was more conservative treatment at first, and that was good because I have an aunt who's had like 5 back surgeries, and she's at the point of almost being crippled now from that many back surgeries. So I was kind of suspect at first, I guess is the best word, or cautious, based on how her outcomes have been with other doctors and other facilities. So Dr. McFarland we tried everything else first: physical therapy, injections, but being my spine was fractured and there was compression, there wasn't but so much that could be done. So that was the route we ended up going. So that was what worked best for me. And I got hit by a farm truck, and the farm truck basically just fractured my lower back in different spots and caused a lot of nerve compression to the point where in some cases you couldn't use the bathroom, you couldn't walk. So it was like catastrophe. You couldn't bend to get out of the bed. You had to roll out of bed if you got out of bed. So it was catastrophic. It was probably the worst that I'd ever had. And he fixed it, put it all back together, and it was pretty much immediate. I was out of the hospital that day, which was surprisingly. But everybody said Dr. Carlson could be aggressive, but it was good because a lot of other people I've talked to, they were given time to kind of that weren't, maybe the doctor wasn't as aggressive, but it worked out best for me because my body just took to it. I started walking and everything turned out great. There was some nerve stuff that happened because of the truck accident that wasn't, it wasn't exclusively solved by surgery. So when I saw Dr. Andrus, it went into it didn't just start and end with McFarland or Carlson. It moved on to different aspects too. And it kind of remained conservative treatment, but it moved on to let's check your nerves and figure out what we can do to fix that. Is there something else we can do? And then moved into pain management. But ultimately, it ended up not being something that I really needed a surgery for the nerve piece. It was more, you just need to exercise more and take on some conservative stuff. And once I did that, it was fine. I had 2 siblings who had opiate addiction problems, and both died of overdoses before they were 40. So I've never even taken them. But that was one of the things I liked is I've always tried to stay away from them. And with their pain management here, it was exclusively non-narcotic and conservative. So I liked it. I think initially I was kind of concerned with it because I'd always saw the aunt and she started having these surgeries when she was in her 40s and now she's in her 60s and she's basically almost crippled. And she basically said anything you can do to stay away from. Don't do the back surgery. But I was at a point where it was kind of like it had to be done. And my grandmother basically said, when she first got out of bed from the surgery, she said it was the worst pain she'd ever had when she bent to set up and get out of bed. So I was like, oh man, I gotta deal with this. But when I got up, it was almost like I didn't have the surgery. I felt great. Like I could get up. I didn't have that experience like she had. So I kind of knew something was different from mine versus the way hers had always historically been. So from then on, I was up and out. I went to my car, I stood up, I got in my car, I went home, I walked around, I walked up and down the street, and everything everything was great. I can do pretty much everything I used to do. I mean, I figure I need to lose weight. So I mean, I still keep my truck physical. So I get my 2-year physical every year. There's a lot of people who don't get 1 year, and they never had a surgery. So I'm still going to get my 2-year physicals for a federal driver, and even though I don't drive anymore, um, I go to play basketball with my kids. I can jump up and down. I can run. Um, and some of those things I couldn't do initially after the surgery, obviously, because I just had the surgery. So impact, jumping, running, any high impact stuff, but I can do all that now. I go to the gym twice a week, work out with a trainer. Not much that I can't do. What I like the most about OSC is it kind of like eased that away to where, hey, Dr. Carlson explains, hey, I've done a million of these. This is where this is where my experience is. This is what I'm a professional at. My specialty is this, and I'm going to make you, is the best I can possibly make you. And he was right. So, to this day, I still refer people here because they can fix you without, crippling you for the next 20 years. So I think the only advice I would have is go somewhere where they're going to guide you through it and make you as right as they can make you. I mean, I referred my cousin last week. She was broke down. She called me and said, hey, who did you use for your back? You're great. I said, hey, go to Dr. Carlson. He'll get you right. And if he can't, he's going to tell you exactly what can get you right. And then maybe a month ago, my neighbor called and said, hey, you're great. Who'd you use? And I said, go to Dr. Carlson. So, and another thing that I use a lot of Google Maps because I travel all over the place. And I hate to spend money and waste it. It's nothing worse than that. You get in there and it's just terrible and you've spent your money. But I left a good review on here probably 2 or 3 times because it's like when people are looking for whatever they're looking for, whether it's a restaurant or a back doctor, you want to know what the past experiences are with that doctor or that clinic or that restaurant and know you're not wasting your money. And, this is just one of those places that I highly reviewed. So, well, I mean, I've had a grandfather and an aunt, both from the same side that had back surgeries at other places and both ended up mostly crippled for the rest of their life or having 4 or 5 or 6. I've never had to go back. I saw Dr. Carlson for a follow-up a month ago and we did x-rays and everything and everything's still in the same spot. And it's still 100%. So, I guess where my expectation was is I'd probably end up having another one and then another one. And, you could end up just like the aunt or the grandfather who warned you not to do it. But I think it's probably the best decision I ever made to get it done. So I could have not got it done and probably been in a lot worse shape.